Welcome to Cultivated Conversations in New York City. I'm so excited to have you here with me today. Today's guest, Kristin Turner, is a new friend, and she lives every day between the sectors of celebrity and brand. She's got more than a decade experience in marketing, PR, and working with celebrities like Kevin Hart and his tequila brand on scaling and marketing them into immense businesses. We also are going to get a bit into mentorship and lessons that she's learned along the way. Please welcome Kristin Turner.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. This is going to be amazing. I can't wait to dig into your story. You know, I think we are a very recent friendship.
Yeah.
And I always love to start every episode with how I know the guest. So I don't know if you want to share a little bit about how we very recently met and hung out.
Absolutely. I love it. So we have a mutual friend in common, Kelsey McWilliams, who I used to work with at SB Projects and in the talent world. And, you know, we've just stayed in contact over the past few years. And she was like, you have to meet Jen. And so she facilitated a cute little coffee.
Yeah.
At,
a little bricky
at
hang.
LPQ. Yeah, we love it. And hit it off. It was great, incredible. And then the best part, obviously, is the next time we met, we did Pilates and got NAD IVs.
Yeah.
So it was very LA.
It was very LA. Yeah, it was very LA in New York.
Yeah, it was like the perfect way to
friendship.
spend a Friday morning.
Yeah.
So incredible. But now I'm a fan of SLT and IVs. So.
Yeah, right? There we go. I want to get to know you a little bit, right? And I think, like, first of all, set up who you are now, right? And what you're doing in your career and in your life. But then I also want you to take us back and give us some insight into the journey of how you got to where you are.
Yeah. So right now I'm really at the intersection of talent partnerships and business building and ventures. So really building businesses with talent, specifically in the beverage space, really a lot of alcohol products, some non-alc. But yeah, I'm in my 30s and living life and really figuring out, you know, I think you spend your 20s like really learning and grinding. Yeah. And then your 30s is kind of for that blossoming moment. So really have been doing that and figuring out what's next. And then I think 40s is even like a more amazing decade when it comes to career and family and all of that kind of stuff.
I'm about to be 40, girl.
Oh my God. Congrats.
I know.
It's the new 30s.
Yeah. So in like a month and change, I'm going to be 40.
I love it.
She doesn't look a day over 21,
Absolutely
right?
not. You look great. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited because of people like you who are just, you know, live their best lives in their 40s.
Gosh.
So
well, okay, so you have a really interesting career though. Yeah. I think celebrity has sort of maybe been that connective tissue, right? But take us back to, you know, 18 or 21-year-old Kristin, right? Yeah. When you're in school and your whole career is ahead of you. What did you want to do? Who did you want to be? And how did you get to where you are now?
I knew I wanted to be in entertainment. And I think it's just because that's the kind of, like, I was really into pop culture. I liked TV and movies. Like, I was so drawn to the entertainment industry just from a consumer perspective.
Yeah.
And I majored in advertising and honestly kind of stumbled upon that, like was probably very type A when it came to figuring out what my major was. I did so much research, so much digging, what was available at the time, and kind of landed on advertising. Went off and did that, loved it, but then also kind of realized I wanted to do more PR. So then kind of started taking more PR internships and quickly realized like entertainment PR was what I wanted to do. And so I started taking a few classes, doing a lot of the internships, and ended up working at an ad agency, but doing PR for a travel client. So it was kind of the mix of best of both worlds, but it also kind of taught me pretty quickly that I definitely needed to be in entertainment because travel was just not doing it for me. But then also PR kind of run its course for me too. Like I could understand it. I really liked the skills I gained, but it wasn't the driving motivation for me to like get press hits or anything like that. That just wasn't interesting to me at the time. So as I was kind of figuring out what was next, I really went through just like meeting people in the city and meeting people my age and seeing what they were doing. And I stumbled upon brand partnerships and met some of the team at Columbia at the time. And we were kind of at the agency side, so they were looking to work with us for our brands and understand if any of their talent can make sense. And that's when I found out that this was even a job in the first place.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, so it's kind of like PR and pitching and kind of getting something at the end of it, but the something at the end of it was money and a deal versus a PR placement. Yeah. And that kind of struck the chord for me. It was like, oh, think I can do that. So I just kind of started diving into what I could of that space. And I think at the time too, the founders of the company, I was interning a super small PR agency. She was like, you need to read this book called The Tanning of America by Steve Stout, which was very much so about how hip hop culture and marketing and these corporations kind of fused together to create campaigns and partnerships that really transcended time and transcended culture. And then I think from then on, I always knew that I wanted to be a part of that. So it was kind of figuring out how I can be a part of that. And then so when understanding brand partnerships was a thing, I was like, oh, this is quite literally that. So I was like, how can I fuse this world of entertainment and creativity with
and telling stories
and with marketing and kind of this more business background that I built in school. And so, it was kind of everything from there. And then I found a job that was online at the time for Warner Records, applied and got it. And so never really looked back.
Was there any particular deal or transaction in those early days that you feel like was a big turning point?
I think it was one of those things that I started looking back into, and also the book details like Run DMC and everything in like the late 80s. But I think I started looking back on my life and being like, what are the things that drew me? And I was, a big Beyonce fan, still am, but
who's not?
I know, right? Who's not? It's a red flag if you're not. But she did a partnership with Armani for a perfume, and I went to her concert, and that's the first time I saw, felt, experienced the marketing. And at the time, I didn't really know much about it. But then once I started studying it and kind of reading this literature, I was like, oh, that's exactly what that is. That kind of fire I felt from being a part of that is what I can create for other people. So I would always say that was kind of a turning point for me, and the realization of what it was probably 4 or 5 years later.
So cool. Yeah. Now you're working in the talent partnerships, kind of it's still got a touch of the marketing, right? It has the talent partnerships that you got from a lot of your experience at the labels and with SB projects. So talk to us a little bit about what exactly are you doing in your current role, and what does that look like?
So the company I work for is called Global Brand Equities. We own a few different brands that are co-owned with celebrities. So we're really sitting at that intersection of the venture that is talent strategy, but also marketing, and really building these businesses with them. And it doesn't just stop at, what are the marketing campaigns we do, but it's really how do we leverage talent and how do we utilize their time effectively to drive ROI for the business. So obviously in this world of celebrity brands, it's not just posting on social media, it's behind the scenes meetings with stakeholders, it is campaigns, it's a lot of strategizing, and understanding that every little piece of the business wants the talent's time. And so it's really figuring out how do we use their time effectively, and also how do we harness that creativity that they have and really put it into the business, but then also using our own business acumen and marketing skills to kind of join forces and make something that's incredible from that point.
It's a wild time to be in that sector, because I feel like we've almost been inundated with these celebrity, not even just, in the beverage and alcohol sector too, but we're just inundated with brands in general, right? Like every day there's a new makeup, right? I feel like we're in this culture of brands. So obviously there's always been a lot of brands, but I think it's this combination of marketing, social media, and talent, right? So I'd love to dig in, this is one of my favorite topics, right? Just the power of talent. And I'd love your point of view on why this has been so successful. And some have been very unsuccessful, but I'd love to just dig into that a bit.
I think it's so many things. We know probably more than anyone that even just to do a partnership deal, there's so many moving pieces and so many things that can potentially go wrong. And it's the same thing for businesses. I think we're at a time where people are expected, and also people want to be multi-hyphenates. They don't necessarily want to be stuck in their box. And so that still stands for celebrities. And, people have seen the playbook of how to make a lot of money through these businesses. But also I do think that there is a very genuine itch to scratch for a lot of these talent of okay, maybe my day job is music, but I really want to try my hand in creating something that's not music, and you know, how do I use that perspective to put into a product?
Another creative outlet, really.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I think there's so many reasons why people do them, and I think it's almost very similar to now. I was listening to another podcast, and it's like we're also, like you said, we're inundated with brands, but also the barrier to entry to create brands is lower than it ever has been too. So it's not only that, but it's like the access needed is barely non-existent.
Yeah, there's these platforms, right, that you can go on and say, I want to make a, you know, furniture, and it's like they almost handle it soup to nuts for you.
Exactly.
They could do the design, they find the places that it's going to be made, they help you with the imports. It's just it's wild how accessible all of this is. Yeah,
exactly. And so that's why you have founders of, you know, who aren't even talent, who are able to kind of build these brands from scratch. It's like there is just so much access and so much information out there.
Yeah.
But I think when it comes to talent and the power of talent, I mean, they're the built-in microphone, and I think they're the built-in kind of audience that's already there. I do think, though, there are a lot of misconceptions around it. And it's like, I think talent has so much power to create incredible brands. We've seen it time and time again. But I do think that so many people tend to rest on the talent and believe that that's the only thing you need to make a brand successful. And although we have so many examples of what it has done really well, we also have a lot of examples of failures. So I think people are starting to kind of get hip to it and understand that how you structure it, the partners that you bring in, the marketing that's involved, like all of that does play a role. And just because you have a talent doesn't mean that that's your entire marketing budget. You still need category expertise. You still need marketers. You still need sales and distribution. Like you still need all of that infrastructure to do really well, especially in the CPG space.
Yeah. What do you think are some of those key things that create success for a brand, and I think especially a celebrity brand?
At least with working with so many celebrities, I think one of the things I love to hear is how intrinsically they know their audience. And I've worked with talent in the past that's like, you know, I need to post this at 8 a.m. Pacific time because that's when I'm going to get the most engagement. And just knowing that type of information about your audience, to me, is like, if you know something like that, like you know so much more about your audience and what they want, what they're looking for. And I think that's also why Hailey Bieber has done so well. She knows exactly what her audience is looking for. She's done the work. She tests, and they're not just posting on social media just to post. Like they're looking at analytics, they're looking at what's working, they're reading comments, seeing how people are responding to them. And that is just so much institutional knowledge that no one else has with your audience. So if you're very intentional about it and analytical about it, I think that gives most businesses the upper hand.
Well, there's like, because there's this, you know, like the big, you know, the Procter and Gambles of the world. It's like, let's appeal to everyone, right? This product is for everyone. And it's, you know, you're very mainstream down the center lane type of advertising and marketing. But then I think, to your point, these talent and their products, like, and it works the same when you're analyzing social media. I think it's less about the number of followers, and it's more about the engagement with the followers that you have, right?
100%.
To have 100,000 people following you that watch your every move, like your every story, right? React to everything that you do. I think, you know, as someone who looks at talent, is such a bigger win than, oh, they have 10 million followers and like there's zero engagement, right?
Yeah.
And I would imagine that really translates into celebrity brands, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, yes, we want to appeal to the broad, but like, who are our fans? Who is our true consumer? And let's get them buying a bottle, falling in love, and then always having it in their pantry or in their fridge or whatever it might be.
To your point, I think that so many, whether it's strategic partners like a Procter and Gamble or those massive companies that want to work with celebrities, they do see that big follower number. It's like, okay, we have to appeal to all of these people. And it's like when you're starting a brand, no matter who you are, like you have to start with that niche and that core audience and then build from there. And that mass market will come, but starting off, and I see that mistake all of the time, and understanding that you will get there, but you can't start off that way. And also most startup companies are not well funded enough to reach the masses in that way, especially not effectively. So even, I don't care if you have the biggest person in the world, like you have to start relatively niche and then grow from there, and then then you could take it off.
I think there's this era of making the consumer feel special, right? I get lured in all the time because it's like, the algorithm and all the things, it's like they're speaking directly to me. And, it says, oh, are you concerned about this? Here's the solution here, right?
How'd you know?
Or, exactly. And I think that just plays so much into it. So I know are you able to talk about some of the celebrities specifically and the products that you work on day in and day out?
I would think like the biggest one that everyone probably sees pretty frequently is Kevin Hart's tequila Gran Coramino. We launched that about 3 years ago, and he's a big microphone and constantly talking about it, which is great, which I would also say is so interesting because whether people want to admit it or not, the amount of times that a talent talks about their brand is absolutely being judged. And so
because they're like, oh, you're just plugging your tequila every time you're doing something.
But it's almost looked at as a good thing.
It's
absolutely looked at
as
I
thought you meant it in a bit of a negative light.
No, it's like it's almost like a measure of like how well the brand could do in some circles. I don't think it's necessarily directly correlated, but I think the public perception is very much so.
Well, the more you talk about it, the more,
it just means that you care, which I totally get. But I also, we work in the music industry where people are a little bit more calculated and creative too, where like the messaging matters a little bit more. So I sometimes think that it's hard for you to balance both, like everyone's wishes and wants and perceptions, but also how you creatively see something.
It's fascinating because I think about like in mainstream media, right? So if Kevin Hart were to go on podcasts or television shows, I don't know that I've seen him plug it. So I feel like he must be doing a great job because it does feel organic. And maybe he has and I've just missed it. But I'm curious, like, what are some of those strategies? Like, do you sit down and think, okay, we need 10 mentions on podcasts and TV shows. We need, 25 organic events where, all the tastemakers are coming. Like, is there a playbook for sort of how you go about building something like this?
Short answer is no, because back to our point about everything is so like you have your core audience. I think what works for one core audience doesn't necessarily work for another. And also between products, right? Like alcohol is pretty hard to market. And so it does need to feel a little bit more organic, and it is very much so like, how do you drive trial when you have a $40 or $60 product? That's not something that people are going to just reach for. The thing that's really great about Kevin and a lot of other talent is like they understand the opportunities that they have to plug. So even with Kevin, it's like he did the Netflix roast, and the Gran Coramino was all over there because he wanted to plug it. You know what I mean? We supply the product, we make sure we can make it happen, but he's the one who's really championing it to be there, championing it to be in the green rooms, things like that. So it makes our job easy, but we are figuring out like, okay, the organic events that we're doing, making sure that there's influencers and tastemakers in the world so that the product and the brand can live beyond his world and reach other people's worlds too. So that's really, I think, where we come in and really try to grow the brand with the same core audience, but the same core audience who might not be watching the roast, but still makes sense for the brand and still could be the number one supporters.
Well, I mean, and Kevin is such an anomaly. Like, I actually have this joke that anytime we start a new project, Kevin Hart is always on the list.
Of course.
I mean,
there's there's a top five that
there's a top
wants.
five, and he is one of them. I mean, and he's just, the success he had. But, when someone isn't a Kevin Hart, right, where have you seen success in ways that they're able to, market and get a brand or just themselves out there?
I mean, I think they kind of need to go back into like grassroots and like hitting the streets. That's why you see people who are really out there with their fans, and even we've seen it not necessarily in the CPG space, but even when people are launching books, and like there's obviously a playbook there, but it is getting out there and like reaching out and like touching your fans. Essentially, it is really having that one-on-one connection. And I think when you have, even with creators or just not as popular celebrities and things like that who are building these brands, like it does take a little bit more effort to compete and to get in front. Like I think we don't work with them, but even Aaron Paul and Bryan Cranston have done a great job with that, where it's like you have your niche of diehard watchers of Breaking Bad, whereas I don't even know if I would have said however many years ago that like that is indicative of a conversion for an alcohol product, but they hit the streets. Like they quite literally hit the streets, and I think you see the success that has come from that. So
that's come up quite a few times actually, about it's sort of this reverting back to the in-person, the actual human connection, right?
Right.
Like all the digital stuff and all the DMs and all of that is all fine and well, and it's wonderful that we have those abilities now.
Right.
But I think as humans, we really just sort of crave connection.
Yeah.
And human to human contact. And to your point, like go in the streets and just be with the people who are your fans. Like that converts so immensely well.
I just like made this connection now, but I think it's also interesting even in music. Like there's a reason why musicians were kind of the top upper echelon of celebrity. It's because they went out on tour. They built their fan bases like brick by brick, and they still do. Yeah. To your point, it's like you're kind of still using that same model of something that's more maybe music related, but now it's like how do you pivot that to a product and promoting a product?
So I want to switch gears a little bit and go back a little bit more to you, my dear.
Yeah.
And I had read somewhere that you talked about being inspired by incredible women, right? And I think the broader entertainment and media industries have changed so drastically in the last, even few years. So I'd love to just talk about what that experience has been for you, right? Coming up and who's been there for you, and what would be your advice to young men and women wanting to break into the industry?
Well, I think it also starts with my mom. She was a single mom, and it was me and her, and I'm an only child. So, and she worked my entire upbringing. And so I did have that model of someone who worked and also had this more dynamic, multifaceted world that they were living in, which I think is really important.
Yeah.
But then I just continued to see that example as I, from interning to now in my career of incredible women who have been mentors and bosses who, seemingly have it all. And, we all know that it's such a balance. But I think majority of my supervisors and bosses have been women. So it's kind of like, it's been really great to learn too, because especially in this space with partnerships, which is very like experience driven, eventually gut driven, like you kind of just need to be able to talk to people and talk out your ideas and understand how people are thinking about things, which is a little bit more nuanced than just getting a task and doing it.
Yeah.
So I think it's been super helpful to have these like open conversations with all of my supervisors in the past of like, how did you think about that? And I give so much credit to them too, to mentoring me and really taking the time to have those conversations with me. And honestly has played such a huge role in my confidence today and being able to really have confidence in this field, which we also know is very much so like deal making, which can seem to be very male centric and male heavy. So I'm extremely grateful for all the women that have like been
Lifted
mentors
you
to
up.
me. And took the time, because like it's another job in and of itself. So.
It is. Yeah, it is. But it's so important. You're sort of out there on your own island, and the only way to really learn is when people have your back.
Right.
Do you think there's a lesson that you've learned either early on or even more recently in your career that really changed everything for you?
Yeah. Oh my God. I'm like, which one?
I love it. Tell us
I know,
all
right?
of them. Yeah.
I think probably the first one, I think took a little while, but it was understanding what you can control and what you can't. And then really, especially again, in this world where one thing can happen and a deal falls apart. When that is kind of like the KPI for your job, it could feel very personal sometimes. So doing that work so I wasn't so upset all the time and like understanding.
That's a big one.
And having the self-awareness to also be like, knowing what I know, could I have done something differently, and being super honest with yourself on what you could have done differently and what you couldn't have done differently. And I think it took that and being super honest with myself, because a lot of the times, I could have done something differently. But that has been so instrumental to like, there did become a day where I was like, I don't think I could have done anything differently here. And like, it wasn't on me. And so therefore you don't take it so hard at that time.
But that's a great filter though, because I think that when you care, it makes you really good at what you do, right?
Yeah.
Because it's you live, eat, and breathe it in a healthy, maybe sometimes unhealthy, but I really do. I think that is what gives at least myself that edge, right? Is I genuinely freaking care.
Yes.
But
absolutely.
to your point, sometimes when something goes wrong that's out of your control, it eats you up. I have had a lot of sleepless nights and just stress and I think similar to you, I feel like as I've matured in my life and career, and quite frankly, just have more happening in life, right? I think you're able to kind of let go of some of those things.
Right.
But when you're in your 20s and even in your 30s, it's hard.
It's so hard.
I love that advice.
Yeah, it's so hard, and it's a big learning and totally necessary, but it's tough. Because to your point, yeah, there's just like anxiety-filled days and nights and freaking out that you just like made some big deal with high stakes fall apart.
Well, yeah, it's letting go of what you can't control in a way, right? But I think also makes it so important to surround yourself with people that uplift you and that you want to work with.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with people that are very difficult, I think there are people that are snaky. I call them snakes in the grass, right? And I don't know, why they are that way. And I think that's when it's the hardest to let it go, right? Because it's like, you're like, oh man, this slippery snake is, going to rub this in my face.
And also everyone loves to play the blame game. And so you kind of have to take yourself out of the blame game and just realize that, like, again, it was out of anyone's control, and that's what happens.
Yeah. Mistakes are also really important because sometimes you have to kind of, take a step back or be shoved back a little bit, to realize, oh shit, I'm not going to do that again, or I'm going to do this differently the next time.
Yeah. This is such a weird example, but I was like first job in PR. So like, sending out blasts and emails to a bunch of reporters, and I sent something that was supposed to be embargoed to the wrong person. Freaked out, honestly freaked out. And it was really nice because like my bosses were like, it's fine, like I'll just call the person, it'll be okay. But I never sent an email to the wrong person ever again in my life. So it is one of those things that's like, you wish you don't have to make the mistakes in order to learn the lesson. However, I know that if I didn't make that mistake then, I probably would have made a worse mistake later on.
Any other lessons that you learned that you want to share?
Yeah, honestly, probably within the past year or 2 years, and I've heard so many people say this, but other people's opinion of me is none of my business.
Ooh,
it's been a really good one, and it's not to not take accountability for anything, right? I do believe that I try to be a good person, and people can be shitty, and you do need to take accountability for those things. But I think, especially for me, who for a while I did care what everyone thought of me, and in any work situation or whatever, I just always wanted to make sure I was emoting or doing the right thing and liked and or respected and all of those things, and kind of goes hand in hand. Once I realized I can't control that because people have their own life experiences and could be projecting onto me other things that I just have no control over. It has, and I'm still working on it, but it has honestly just made me just live my life the way I want to live it and realize that none of your, what you think of me is none of my business. And unless you say something to me or have a problem with me, I also can't spend time ruminating over what could be if you don't have the conversation.
I mean, that's huge of you, because I know that is not easy. I mean, I feel like I spent my entire life being a people pleaser, right?
Same.
And
Recovering people pleasers.
Which again, I do believe has made me really great at what I do.
Yes.
But I think to your point, it's very hard to not consume yourself with, oh my gosh, did I say something wrong? Or did they not like me? Did that not go well? Shit. And I think it's probably coming from maturity and or, where you are in your career and kind of looking ahead. So speaking of looking ahead, is there a goal? Is there a dream? Is there a sector that you have yet to explore? Just what does the future look like?
Yeah, I am one of those professional learners. I'm always curious. So what I do love about just my job and what I've done over the past 10 years is that it does give you so much insight into so many different industries, which I love. I love learning about the alcohol space, CBG space, beauty, tech, anything. I love all of that. So I want to just continue to learn. I do want to get more, I want to understand more on the investment side and really kind of doing that due diligence and understanding even, as we were building these businesses, how do you create frameworks in order to vet different partners, and how do you know who's going to be great for these businesses? Especially to your point, I don't think celebrity brands are dying down anytime soon or creator-led brands or anything, but I do think the partners who are involved, that entire process is going to have to get more sophisticated in order to really have a shot at winning.
Yeah.
And so I'm super interested in consuming myself a lot with just like understanding what investment funds and their theses and kind of understanding what all of that looks like. But I love to learn, and I'm kind of always just, consuming culture and understanding what people are doing, and I'm just kind of constantly inundating myself with what's happening. And then I trust myself to kind of evolve as needed, because right now it's like I don't know if, even when I was in high school, it's like I didn't know this was a job that I would do for 10 years. And so I couldn't have said that like this is where I want to be. And I feel the same way now, that I know the directions in which I want to go, but I don't necessarily know the end goal.
That is the best way to be. And like my biggest piece of advice too, every stepping stone is giving you these tools that you're going to utilize wherever you end up.
Right. And the world is changing so fast.
Oh,
like it was changing fast then, and it's changing fast now.
Insane.
So what work looks like, what jobs look like, what impact looks like all of that's going to change. And so I'm allowing myself to go with the flow and figure out what's best.
Yeah. So tell us, where can we find you online or on socials,
oh my God,
or anything that you want to plug or tell us about or send us to?
Yeah, I'm Kristin Janae on Instagram, TikTok, pretty much every platform. It's KristinJenee. And I also just launched a Substack recently called Structured Chaos.
Nice.
So it's substack.com/structuredchaosco. And you can follow us on Structured Chaos on Instagram too.
Tell us about Structured Chaos. Wait, what is this?
So I do it with my friend who I've known for so long, and we both just have been, again, really inundated in culture and trends and all of that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a little bit of our personal diaries and the things that we are realizing or listening to and consuming on a weekly basis, but also trend forecasting and what's happening in culture, what's happening with brands, what's happening with celebrities and creators, what's happening in fashion, music, like pretty much anything.
I mean, obviously, everyone go and subscribe to the Substack. But tell us, give us like 3 things right now that we have to check out or we got to know about.
Yeah, I actually was just writing it for this weekend. So it comes out every Sunday.
Okay.
And then we'll do deep dives during the week, probably around twice a month. One of the trends that I'm noticing right now is just like this entire political nature around PR and gifting and seeding. I've seen so many creators talk about it recently, and it's not only from the brand side and what's faux pas for the brand to expect of a creator, but it's also just this whole idea of that you're giving these creators so much like kind of superfluous stuff, and it's like you should be giving that to your community. And I think the politics around it is kind of bubbling up, and we will probably see it maybe in the next couple of years of what that actually looks like and what changes of it. But yeah, I think that's one big thing.
Fascinating.
I think in the celebrity brand space, it's for a while you just had so many people going after CPG, whether it's makeup or alcohol or grocery snacks or whatever. Even with the announcement with Kendrick Lamar doing a creative agency, I think we're going to see a lot more creators and celebrities do more like production studios and agencies and kind of disrupting these other maybe service-based worlds versus CPG.
Why do I need that production company or that studio when I can just do it myself?
Right. Exactly. And also and disrupt it. Like Kendrick Lamar can disrupt a creative agency.
Totally.
Like I have 100% faith in that. So
yeah, because Kendrick Lamar being boxed in at a particular network or streamer or whatever, right, or outlet, whatever it might be, is not going to be the Kendrick Lamar that we all love.
Right. And also by him hawking a beverage also doesn't make sense for him. So it's like, use your talent where it makes sense.
He should make a jeans line.
For sure.
I think just that, like...
He's now the flare guy.
He's now the flare guy.
Trendsetter.
He's like, we need Kendrick Lamar's line
maybe a fashion
denim.
Line could absolutely work.
Yeah. Well, Kristin, thank you so much for being here. You're amazing, and thank you for sharing all your insights and all the things. And thank you all for joining us for another episode of Cultivated Conversations. We want to hear from you, so send us an email, say hi at cultivatedent.com, and we'll see you next time. Bye.